My name is Colette Owens. I'm 32 years old, and 3 weeks ago, my parents sent me a text message that finally made me understand something I had spent 10 years refusing to see. The message was short and painfully clear. Don't come to our anniversary party. Only high society guests will be there, and we don't want to explain your situation. I stared at the screen for a long time, not because I didn't understand the words, but because I did. I had always been the invisible daughter in my family, the one who never quite fit the polished image my parents wanted to present to the world. My sister, Vivian, was the perfect one, the glamorous socialite married to a wealthy investment banker, the daughter my parents proudly introduced to everyone at the country club. I, on the other hand, had chosen a quieter path. I became an architect, specializing in historic preservation, the kind of work that meant crawling through dusty attics, studying century-old blueprints, and fighting to save buildings that developers wanted to demolish. My parents dismissed it as the old buildings thing, as if my career were a hobby instead of a profession. For 10 years, I had been cropped out of family photos, left off Christmas invitations, and introduced to their friends with vague, embarrassed explanations. Still, I kept working. 3 years ago, my life changed when I received a call from the National Trust for Historic Preservation about Whitmore Estate, a 150-year-old mansion scheduled for demolition in Massachusetts. Developers wanted the land, historians had given up, and the building was days away from disappearing forever. I was asked to present a restoration proposal that could justify a $12 million rescue. For weeks, I buried myself in research, studying every historical record and blueprint until I knew the house better than anyone alive. When I presented my plan, I didn't just talk about bricks and beams. I told the story of the people who had lived there, the craftsmanship hidden behind the walls, and the history that would vanish if the building fell. The board approved the project, and for 18 months, Whitmore Estate became my entire world. I hand-selected replacement timbers, hunted down artisans who still knew how to repair Victorian plaster, and spent 3 months restoring the enormous oak front doors panel by panel. My parents never knew about the project. I never told them because by then I had learned something important. Some people aren't interested in understanding you, no matter how clearly you explain. Then, 3 weeks before their anniversary party, the text arrived telling me not to come. That same afternoon, another letter appeared in my mailbox, this one from the American Institute of Architects. It informed me that I had been nominated for the AIA Gold Medal in the Emerging Voice category, one of the most prestigious honors in architecture, largely because of my work restoring Whitmore Estate. The announcement would be made public the evening of my parents' party. I didn't plan the timing, but fate clearly had a sense of irony. A few days later, my sister called, pretending sympathy while subtly reminding me that their party guests were important people who wouldn't understand someone like me. My father called too, repeating the same message. The guest list was final and they couldn't risk distractions. During the conversation, he casually mentioned that a woman from the National Trust named Margaret Caldwell would be attending the party. I almost laughed. Margaret wasn't just someone from the trust, she was the executive director who had mentored me throughout the Whitmore restoration and personally supported my award nomination. My parents were trying to impress my own mentor while pretending I didn't exist. 2 days before the party, my aunt texted asking if I was okay because my mother had told relatives I was struggling with mental health issues and couldn't function. That was the moment I truly understood how far the story had gone. My absence wasn't just convenient, it had been explained with a lie. The night before the party, I called Margaret to confirm the award announcement timeline, and she mentioned she would be attending an anniversary event at Whitmore Estate, hosted by a family named Owens. I didn't correct her. On the night of the party, I stayed in my Cambridge apartment, watching my sister's Instagram stories of the celebration inside the mansion I had restored with my own hands. Guests arrived in tuxedos and gowns, champagne flowed, and my parents proudly showed off the building without knowing the architect was their own daughter. At 7:30 p.m., the AIA published the official announcement, and Architectural Digest released a feature article about my work, including photographs of me standing in front of Whitmore Estate. Within minutes, the guests at the party began seeing the news on their phones. The name Owens caught their attention. Someone asked my mother if the famous young architect mentioned in the article was her daughter. She denied it at first, insisting I merely worked in construction, but the truth spread quickly as more guests read the article. When Margaret realized what had happened, she addressed the room and told everyone how a determined young architect named Colette Owens had saved the building they were celebrating inside. Suddenly, the narrative my parents had spent years building collapsed in front of 150 witnesses. My phone rang shortly afterwards. It was Vivian, furious, demanding to know why I had hidden my success from the family and embarrassed them in front of their guests. I calmly reminded her that they never asked about my life. After the call ended, I sat in silence for a long time before deciding to drive to Whitmore Estate. I wasn't going for revenge. I was going because the building mattered to me. When I arrived, the party had already shifted from celebration to uncomfortable curiosity. I walked through the oak doors I had restored, and the room fell silent as people recognized me from the articles circulating online. My parents stared as if they were seeing me for the first time in a decade. I simply told them the truth. I knew I wasn't invited, but the building belonged to my work, and I deserved to stand in it. Margaret then announced that I would be leading a new $500,000 restoration project for the governor's mansion in Boston. The room erupted in applause. Guests congratulated me while my parents stood quietly by the fireplace, realizing the story they had told for years no longer worked. I spoke to them briefly before leaving, explaining that I had spent a decade trying to earn their approval and was no longer interested in chasing it. Weeks later, I heard that Vivian's marriage was struggling after her husband realized how many stories she had edited or exaggerated. My father eventually sent a short message asking if he could see the governor's mansion once it was restored. It wasn't an apology, but it was the first honest thing he had said to me in years. My mother has never contacted me. Standing in front of the governor's mansion today, preparing to begin another restoration, I sometimes think about the girl who once stood at the edge of her sister's wedding photo, wondering why she never seemed to belong. I finally understand something she didn't. You don't need an invitation to stand in the rooms you helped build. Your work, your dedication, and your truth are enough. Sometimes recognition arrives quietly after years of silence, and sometimes it arrives in the middle of the very party where people tried to erase you. But either way, the lesson is the same. Build something meaningful, keep going even when no one is watching, and when the moment comes, walk through the door with confidence because you earned your place there.